Okay. Welcome, everyone. My name, one moment, here we go. All right, now I can see. Thanks, everyone. My name is Wendy Singer, and I am Executive Director for No Shame on You. And on behalf of our Board of Directors, staff, and volunteers, we want to welcome you to today's program. It's Navigating Your College Students' Well-Being from Afar, Balancing Support and Independence. For those of you new to No Shame on You, No Shame on You is dedicated to eliminating the stigma surrounding mental health challenges. And I am so sorry, my computer is acting a fool. We are dedicated to eliminating the stigmas associated with mental health conditions. So people who need the help will seek it, and family and friends will know how to provide proper support and to save lives. No Shame on You achieves its mission through tons of different programming, online presence of over 120,000 media followers, Facebook especially, but please follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We have blogs, podcasts. We distribute resources, customized resources, handouts, and crisis guides. We customize educational presentations for audiences of all sizes, and we partner with organizations throughout the Chicagoland community and country with our virtual access, and are known for our inclusive, consistent, and responsive programming for people of all backgrounds and all ages. This is going to be just a little bit of a different format where I'm going to be in conversation with our speaker, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment. And because we're a small group, at the end, we will have a Q&A session where people can just unmute and ask their questions. I will stop the recording at that time just for privacy, but we will go from there. And without further ado, I want to introduce a wonderful human, an incredible human. Bonnie Lane is the principal therapeutic consultant at the Family Support Services. She's a graduate from National Louis University with a master's degree with honors in both developmental counseling and psychology, and a master's degree in special education. She's also a certified mediator. She's also a certified mediator and certified domestic violence counselor. For more than 2 decades, Bonnie has worked privately with families dealing with severe mental health issues. She has counseled individuals and families as they successfully navigate the maze of care and resources available for adolescents through older adults. Helping families in time of crisis is her mission and passion, and one of the many reasons I love her. Bonnie currently runs, as I told you, the Family Support Services. We'll put that link in the chat at the end. And she serves on the No Shame on You Board of Directors. Hello, Bonnie. Thank you for being here with everyone today. I'm so
Hel-
happy you're here. You're a wonderful human, and I'm just so lucky to know you. And I'm proud to be your I'm proud to be your friend, and I'm proud you're on our board.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Wendy. I'm honored to be your friend and honored to serve on the No Shame on You board, and also honored to be able to facilitate the support group for families of loved ones struggling with serious mental illness for No Shame on You twice a month. And I've been doing it for 5 years. I'm never going to stop. So that's just one of the amazing programs that No Shame on You offers that I get to be a part of. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve the community as a board member of No Shame on You.
Awesome. So today we're going to do this in conversation style. I'm going to ask Bonnie a bunch of questions about, picking on her expertise on the topic of college students who are struggling and how we as parents and caregivers and friends can help support them. And my first question, Bonnie, in your experience, what are the most common signs that a college student might be struggling with their mental health that parents can notice from a distance? Because it's scary when they're away, especially when they're away, you can't see them face to face.
Right. Well, first of all, we can see them face to face, and it's really important to encourage your kids to do FaceTime calls now and then so that you can look at them face to face. Our kids are really good at saying the word fine. If anyone knows what fine means I'm not telling you anything and I don't feel comfortable sharing right now. So we need to delve a little bit deeper. If you're sending away a student that has a pre-existing mental health condition like anxiety, depression, or ADHD that they struggled with in high school, if they had trouble socially navigating the landscape at high school, if they had trouble completing assignments independently in high school, these are things that we're going to watch for when they're independently living in college. So you don't ask them how they are, but you ask them specific open questions that they need to have a whole sentence to answer. So it would be, tell me what classes you had today and what was interesting. What did you learn? We want to know, like, what did you participate? Have you looked into any clubs? Are you socializing with friends? We want to know about their lives because that will tell us about how they're doing. If they can't answer questions about their lives, if they can't elaborate about any subject that they're finding interesting that they're taking, if they can't tell you about an upcoming test, if they can't tell you about a party or a frat group or an organization that they're interested in joining, if they can't tell you about something negative they observed on campus, then we know they may not be fully present in their lives on campus. And that's when we make sure that we do a FaceTime call. We want to look at their eyes. We can tell so much as parents about our children by looking at them, so much more than even words can tell. So, open-ended questions that encourage them to give you full answers, not yes, no, and fine.
Okay. And then my next question is going to college is a huge change. It's a huge change, and sometimes I'm just speaking for my own personal, I'm an old woman now, but I do remember when I went off to college, I had a twin sister. I have a twin sister. She went a different place. I didn't realize how that was going to affect me, and it took me time to adjust. So how do you distinguish between normal adjustment challenges and more serious mental health concerns, at least in the beginning?
That's a great question. Normal adjustment challenges, your kids are going to tell you every single thing. They're going to complain about the room, the bed, the food, the teacher. They're going to complain about everything. Those are normal adjustment challenges. Getting acclimated to a new environment is challenging, and that's okay. And we want them to be open. And the more they talk and complain about things, the more I don't worry.
Okay.
I worry about the kids that don't talk and complain about things. Everything new is going to be a challenge. If they one day say, I've made all these great friends, and the next day they say, I hate everybody here, that's normal.
Okay.
If one day they say, my classes are amazing and my professor is awesome, and the next day they say, I can't stand this and the assignment is unreasonable and I'm never going to finish it on time and I don't have time and I have too much on my plate, that's normal. So the more they talk, the less nervous I'd get.
So that leads me to the next question because kids are different, right? Some kids are humans are different. Some people are yappers like me. I'm a yapper. Someone called me a yappinator recently, so I'm a yapper. And other kids are more, quiet and private, maybe even. So how do you, when you want to check in and you're concerned about being like overly overprotective or invasive,
We
do you
know
have
our
any
we've
tips?
we've raised our kids for the first 18 years. We know what is normal, what is baseline.
Okay.
If your child is not one to want to call you every day, but you have a once a week call and it's good, then you're fine. You know your own kids.
Yeah.
Um, you can ask them questions like, not did you have a good week, but what did you enjoy this week? What brought you joy this week? Um, were there any things that you stressed about? So you ask them specific questions so they can tell you short parables about what they experienced, but you know your kid. And if your kid's not a yapper, and I'm a yapper too, I get it. I'm in your club. If your kid is quieter, it's okay because you know that's who they are. We're not sending strangers away. We're sending people that we raised for 18 years, and we can hear it in their voices. We can hear it in their tone. So trust your gut, trust your instincts. Um, Parents are the best measurers for what's right, what's wrong, what's normal, what's not, because you know your children and trust your instincts.
It sounds good. Trust your gut and don't be afraid. And I like that advice. I'm guessing that there are some people who will be listening to this either now or in the future who have kids who they might be concerned. They might already have some things that they've noticed, or they're already, struggling with some mental health challenges. So, what resources should parents familiarize themselves at their kids' school before an issue arises? Any recommendations of what to look for or that type of thing?
Well, the first thing that I would recommend is a young adult power of attorney. That's also called a mama bear contract. Have your kids sign a young adult power of attorney so that way you have access to any medical or mental health issues that may occur. You won't have to worry about an ROI. These mama bear contracts are good for 18 through 21-year olds, and they're wonderful and they give you some peace of mind. The other thing
Where do you
would,
get, before you move on, is that something you can find somewhere
oh, yeah,
online?
just, yeah, it's actually, if you go on my Facebook page, I linked to it last night, and I think it's on sale right now, the Mama Bear Power of Attorney. So it's a good time to look at it for your rising freshman.
Okay, so we'll include that maybe when I email out the recording. I'll find that
Yeah,
information and we'll send
yeah.
that. But
So
it's not,
it's
is that something you write? So it's not something you write up yourself. It's something,
no,
yeah.
there it's a literal power of attorney, and your kid signs it and you sign it. It gives you access to all of their medical and mental health resources while there's a way. It's a good safety net. Now, some people think that Mama Bear contract means the school should call them. That's not what's going to happen. Okay. It means if your kid tells you that they are going to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a therapist, even just to manage their meds, this gives you access to things. And if, God forbid, your child should get sick and need to be hospitalized or go to a physical medicine doctor, like an internist or primary care doctor while they're away, this gives you access to those records too and the ability to communicate freely. So it's really important when sending your kid away. I feel like I should write, these are things I should have known before I sent my kids away to college, but most of them didn't exist. But I could have used these things for both of my adult children. But now they do exist, so I'm very pleased. The second thing is get to know the community. Get to know the community where you're sending your child. There are different ways to get mental health resources. The easiest and least effective is going through the university. The reason I say least effective is because most of the providers that they'll be seeing will be students or interns at the university's graduate school programs, and they do a 6-week stint. That means your child is telling them and confiding and building a trusting relationship with somebody for 6 weeks, sometimes 12, and then they move on. They've completed what they needed to do, and your kid has to start over. So, if you have a home based therapist or psychologist that is able to work across state lines, or if your kid is going to school in Illinois, then virtual would be my first choice. Maintain the relationship that's already developed. That would be number one. But if that's not an option, because not all therapists are licensed in other states and they cannot practice across state lines, then have them or me help you find a therapist and psychiatrist that is in private practice or a community-based mental health agency in the community where they're going to school. That will give you more confidence that that person's going to be around for the year. That person isn't doing an internship or a residency. This is their job. So you have more continuity of care, and continuity of care is very, very important, especially when dealing with developing brains in young adults who find it harder to trust. Although I would be honest if I said that we all find it hard to trust in that relationship, and it develops time to build a relationship. Um, so the third thing is when you move your kid in to their dorm freshman year, meet the RA. The RA is really much more valuable than we give them credit for. Meet the RA and tell the RA that my kid sometimes struggles with anxiety or depression or gets overwhelmed easily. And say, and ask for their phone number and say, would you be able to just check in if you don't see them walking around the dorm or leaving for class or they're in their room for days on end? Can you check in and let me know? Now, I would always tell your student that you're going to be doing that. I don't believe in going behind the back, but the RA is somebody living right there in the dorm. And so they will have eyes on when others may not. And if your kids are going to school with friends, friends are valuable. Friends are really valuable. And your kids' friends know how your kid struggles. So nothing is wrong with reaching out to your child's friend and just say, I haven't heard from Stephen in 2 weeks. How's he doing? You know, what's going on? Um, the biggest risk factor on college campuses now is actually marijuana. People think because it's legal that it's safe, but it's very, very dangerous in developing brains. And the frontal cortex doesn't fully develop until the age of 27. And so people that have a predisposition to addiction or any mental health issues can become seriously mentally ill, full-blown psychotic at times from utilizing, using, overusing, abusing marijuana. It's more dangerous than alcohol, and it's very readily available.
Um,
So
I have a question. I wanted to ask, go back to the school counseling centers. Um, from my understanding, school counseling centers are different on every campus. Some have full-time clinicians that can stay with people, some may not. Um, I don't know. In your experience, do you have a preference of if your kid is struggling that they work with the school counseling center, or is it better to find someone off campus?
so I'm going to answer this in two parts. Okay. Um, they're both valuable resources. And if your kid is receiving accommodations for either learning disabilities or mental health issues, and these are things that should be put in place in advance, the school is then well aware that your kid is open to the accommodations department at the university. And so they're known. Your child is a known commodity. And getting a therapist to support them in the school is easier and better and more sustainable when your kid is already open for services. If your child has no services at the school, if you didn't think it was necessary to reach out to the accommodations department, if you don't have a 504 or your kid isn't going in with pre-existing mental health issues and you want mental health accommodations, um, then I think you're better off going privately because the school counseling centers are overworked and they're overworked with people who are already assigned to them because of the accommodations they're receiving. So each case is individual in each school. Now, there are some schools that are very, very good at it, and they are schools that have incredibly impressive accommodations departments for learning disabilities and emotional issues. but not all schools are created equal.
Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing is each school is independent. Do your research, and it's a different style everywhere, and check it out. And I have heard of schools myself from friends who are investigating and colleagues that there are some schools that do individual therapy or group therapy, even. So there's different options to check out. So what I'm hearing is research it, and they're all independent and different.
I would
Um,
also make a recommendation that if your child is going to need services like that, either through the school or privately, don't wait for school to start. There's a whole lot going on when school begins. Try to get all these things in place the month before school begins.
Um, I want to go back to the mama bear contract because I'm thinking about that. What if, I guess the question is, how can parents navigate privacy while ensuring their kids' safety? Like what if they're, what if their student, what if they didn't sign the mama bear contract and their student is already in college?
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, that's why I'm recommending it now to parents of rising freshmen. But yeah, if they didn't sign the contract in advance, you can always go to the school and have them sign it afterward. That's not a problem. You can have your child, if they tell you that they're willing to go into therapy or see a psychiatrist to manage meds, you can ask them to sign an ROI, or release of information, which gives you the same access. The difference between an ROI and the Mama Bear contract is the Mama Bear contract is a power of attorney for young adults. It goes across the services that your child may be receiving, whereas an ROI needs to be done at each individual practitioner.
okay.
But
So
it's not over. It just means we have to circumvent it. And that's okay. You're never out of luck. Just maintain communication with your kids.
so how do you have any recommendations for encouraging independence while being a mother hen or a father hen or
Well,
if
you've trusted your child to go away to school. So already you are showing them that you believe they're ready to adult. But adulting is not a one-day thing. Adulting is a process. It takes some people many years to appropriately adult. Um, I would ask, if you feel that you're going to be a helicopter parent, you know, don't. Um, don't. So set up a schedule. Like say, let's work on something that works well for us. Like we'll talk on Wednesdays and Sundays. So you're giving them a lot of freedom, but you're scheduling a time and say, like, your siblings are home on Sundays. We'd love a call then. And how about a quick check-in on Wednesdays? Most kids are really willing to do something when it's offered on a limited basis. And they know their parents won't be calling every single day saying, "What's going on? How are you? Did you eat? Did you go to class? Did you do your homework? Did you study? Did you turn in your paper? And how was your test?" So don't do that. Don't pepper them with questions. Ask them things about things they want to talk about. Did you go to the football game? Who won? I heard there was a protest on campus. Did you participate? What was it like? What did you see? Ask them things that aren't necessarily about what they're doing, but about what they're experiencing. It's much easier because we don't want to give them a third degree. We're not interviewing our children every time we talk to them. And some parents fall into that trap of interviewing their children every single day. And then kids just don't want to talk to you at all because it's emotionally draining and feels kind of invasive. So talk to your kids beforehand about what communication they're willing to participate in so that you're both comfortable.
yeah, I think that is a big thing because there are a lot of helicopter parents out there, and there's people, parents with their own anxiety, and
And keep
transferring
in
on their
mind
kids.
what's a you problem and what's a them problem. If it's a you problem, talk to your own therapist about how to best navigate your kid being away at college for yourself. without imposing that anxiety on your child.
Absolutely, absolutely. So say you didn't know your kid wasn't struggling. They were functioning, they were thriving in high school, they launch off to college. You start to notice or sense that there might be some challenges because as you said, as the parent, you know your kid and you've been with them 18 years and there has been a change in behavior. And you talk to them and what if they refuse to get help or what do you recommend there?
Okay, so as we know, serious mental health challenges are most commonly rearing their ugly heads between 18 and 26. So it's, exactly when you send your child off to be alone and navigate the world. Um,
Yes.
so it can happen if you have a family history of mental health issues. Um, Even if you don't, it can happen. And you sense something is wrong and they're not forthcoming or willing. We have this great thing. It's called a car, a train, a bus, a plane. You schedule a visit. Um, some people wait till the holidays. Sometimes that's too long. So, just say, we want to come and visit you. You don't have to even tell them why. But if they're struggling, they'll probably be thrilled. And keep in mind, there are regularly scheduled normal times to visit. There's parents' weekend and there's homecoming and football games. I want to come and see a football game. I want to come and check out a basketball game. So there are times when you can organically plan a visit. So plan that visit. Get your eyes on your family member. If you feel that they're seriously struggling, then you have to have a conversation of you have an option. You're still their parent, you're still supporting this educational journey. So it's you can come home and receive treatment, or we can work together to find you treatment here. We can find you a therapist together. But we don't just let them call the shots if they're not acting in their own best interest. And that's the most important line. If they're able to act in their own best interest, then breathe. If they're making healthy decisions and seeking out support, you'll be okay. If they're refusing support and you see them struggling, then it's time for you to intervene and give them a choice of support at home or support on campus. You get to pick. I always analogize this to when our kids are 3 years old. And if given a choice, my children would have worn Superman costumes to school. I don't blame them. I'm actually visualizing Superman pajamas walking out the door, but um, it's not ideal. So when they're little, when they're 3 or 4 years old, you don't say go get dressed unless you don't care what they're wearing and they're not actually leaving the house. You may put two outfits on the bed or three outfits on the bed and say go pick what you want to wear. You're giving them choices, you're making them feel independent, but there's some structure around their plan. We do the same thing. Do you want to come home and get services? Do you want to stay in school and get services? Do you want to get on campus services? Do you want me to help you find someone privately so you don't have to go into the counseling office? Talk to them about what their options are, but you've set out what the options are that they can choose from.
So piggybacking on that question, say you have a student who needs more intensive therapy, once a week therapy isn't cutting it, and they might be looking into something more intensive, um, but they really don't want to come home too. Like, they want to do it in their
That's
college
fine.
town. Like, how do you feel about that?
So I think that's perfectly fine. Most college campuses live in cities that have community-based mental health agencies or private mental health agencies that offer that higher level of care, like an IOP, intensive outpatient program, um, or a DBT program, which is dialectic behavior therapy, which is more skills based. And that might be what they need. Depending on what your insurance is, you can call around and see what's available in the community and work with your student to find a schedule that works with their classes and social activities. Maybe they want to go to an evening program 3 times a week. Maybe they don't have classes every single day. Maybe they need to drop one class and fit it in. We figure it out, and that's such an individualized thing. If your child is adult and responsible enough to say, I want to get more help, but I'd really like to stay here, and you don't feel they're in any danger, meaning substance use, suicidal ideation, paranoia, if you don't feel that they're at any serious risk, then I have no problem with them seeking help in the community and balancing it with their academic life. So they don't have to leave college. It can
Yeah,
work.
it can work for those schools that are in more urban areas or towns, but there are some, I'm guessing there are some that it might not be an option for.
It
Um,
could be in the next town over, though. If your child has transportation and it's a half-hour drive, that's not a deal breaker. Everyone is individual depending on the school, depending on your child's maturity and resilience, and depending on their risk factors.
okay. So my last question really is around medication, and then we can open it up and see if anybody else um,
Well,
knows.
there's one more thing I wanted to bring up, if it's okay.
Of course.
Okay, so we talked about all these things to make it successful, but what if it isn't successful and you have to bring your kid home after the withdraw day, but before the semester ends? It's important to note that tuition insurance is available. And that's not something most people think about. And tuition insurance can help refund tuition, room and board, and other fees if a student needs to withdraw because of a covered medical reason. And mental health is a covered medical reason. So there are insurance companies that you can find that do offer tuition insurance. So if you're sending your kid off that struggled a little bit in high school, college is really expensive, and tuition insurance on average covers $50,000 a semester. So you could purchase the insurance policy as a safety net for you. I know that with my own family member, I was able to get the school to retroactively withdraw them much later than they should have. So they didn't have bad grades on their record, which was wonderful. So they could go back to school and re-enter without those bad marks. But I didn't know about tuition insurance because it didn't exist then, but it does now. So it's just another safety net. And this one's a financial safety net.
That is wonderful. I hadn't heard of that. And I know a family member who went away and had to come home and lost their
30,
tuition.
$40,000 a
Yeah.
semester, depending on university you go to. Yeah.
And is that, in your understanding, specific to universities or it's general policies that you can look for?
I don't think that you would be looking at it at a community college when things are very inexpensive because it may be cost prohibitive, but all universities and colleges it's eligible for. But you have to check with the insurance policy and just Google tuition insurance. It pops up all over.
Okay. So my last
Keep in
question,
mind of the sponsored ads and keep reading down to make sure you find the right policy for you.
yeah, absolutely. So if a student goes to school and say they're diagnosed with anxiety or depression um, on their college campus, and it happens to be we're in Chicago, so maybe it is over the border. They're in northern Indiana at a school. Um, can they get medication when they're away at school? Like, do you know anything about that?
Oh, can they get medication from their psychiatrist?
Yes,
Can
if they're going,
your psychiatrist normally can't prescribe over the border. You're right. So you would have to find a psychiatrist to work with your home psychiatrist just to manage your meds while you're there. It's
Okay.
not an uncommon thing to have done.
It's not impossible.
It's not even difficult.
Okay, good. Good.
Keep in mind, psychiatrists see people on average, I'm saying on average, um, if you're titrating medications, changing medications, it's once a month, but it could be once every 3 months, and your kid could be home to get their medication and then go back to school if you don't need constant oversight of their medication. So, they can order you a 3 month supply, or they can order you a 1 month supply, and your parents pick it up and they can ship it to you. So they
Okay.
can get their medication if they don't need um, medication management, which is different than just prescribing. If you've been seeing the same provider for 5 years and you've been on the same meds and they work, you probably don't need medication management. You can do it when you come home for fall break, winter break, spring break, and you schedule your appointments when you're home.
Are there psychiatrists at university mental health?
Sometimes,
Yeah, it depends on the university.
right.
Okay, so I think the important thing is do your research and know that every school's different, and there are options. Um, Anything else that you want to share before I open up the floor?
No, I think you did an amazing job of asking me questions. I loved it this way. Thank you.
We have a wonderful checklist that we created when Bonnie did a program that was similar 2 years ago with No Shame on You. It's a checklist of what to think about, a lot of the things that she covered in this session and that session that we did 2 years ago. So when I send you all the recording, I will include that awesome checklist. It's really great, and we've gotten some great feedback on it.
Now,
And
that checklist actually was a different topic. Is your child ready to go away to college? And remember, not every child needs to go to college when they graduate high school. There are gap year programs and alternative educational opportunities and travel and work, and make sure that your kid is emotionally and psychologically and physically and academically ready to go to college before you take that leap, and look at what options may be appropriate. Keep in mind, the United States is the only country where people don't take a gap year. In Europe, everyone takes a gap year. It's commonplace. So not every 17 or 18-year-old is ready to make that decision of what do you want to be when you grow up. I know it took me a while to figure it out. And nothing's wrong with that. And we should support community college, technical programs, traveling, and working as very viable and respectable options for your 18, 17, 18-year-old to choose. And I know that that is listed because that was a conversation we had heavily on the last Feed Your Mind we did about um, options to post-secondary education.
I do think just in my world as being a high school mom and hearing what people are doing, it is becoming more and more common here in the United States to take a year. It's okay.
It's it's
And I'm not
wonderful.
and I'm not talking and we're not talking necessarily like a travel year, where you're going off to a different country to volunteer. That's expensive. But gap years are, that is something. But gap years, as you said, Bonnie, are, they could be volunteering, working here. And they're all also what I've learned about too, are there are some therapeutic type programs in cities, more urban cities for kids who um, are struggling. I don't know too much about that. Do you know
There
anything
are
about?
also therapeutic programs within universities. Most of them are specific therapeutic colleges where the kids begin college, but it's built in with the therapeutic piece, either for learning disabilities, behavior disorders, or mental illness. And you have to do some research or call me. But There are programs that are designed for those special needs students to be able to matriculate, and they can give you college credit. And if you develop enough where you can transition to a traditional college or university, then those credits are transferable. So there's lots of options.
Lots of
And
different
don't,
creative things.
and
Yeah.
also remember, don't look at your kids' friends. Don't look at your friends' kids. Those are two things to remember. Really important. Don't look at your kids' friends and don't look at your friends' kids. You are making decisions with your child for your child, and the rest of the world doesn't matter. Everybody's on their own journey, and it's okay.
Thank you so much. I'm going to open it up to questions. We'll take this part off. If anyone has a question, I will take it out of the recording that we share. But if you're not comfortable unmuting, you can text me. And while you're thinking about it, Bonnie, can you tell folks where they can find you if they want to learn more about your work or get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So, I'm a therapeutic consultant working with families 14 and older who are responsible for an individual that struggles with serious mental illness, substance use disorder, with or without neurodivergence, which is a fancy word for autism. You can find me at www.thefamilysupportservices.com. Wendy's going to put that in the chat. That's my website. You can also email me directly at Bonnie Lane at thefamilysupportservices.com. And just for this special group, I'm going to give you my phone number. I'm going to tell you now it's better to text me than call me. It's actually better to text me if this is an emergent situation, a crisis situation. I would say text me first, tell me I was on the No Shame on You Feed Your Mind and my kid is struggling now. Text me at 847 651 1554. If you forget my phone number, it's on my website.
And I'm going to put that in the chat right now.
Oh, and I give a free consultation. Yay, me.
All right, hang on. I'm going to get in the chat. And then I just want to thank, did anyone have any questions that they want to ask? Okay. So
Okay.
I'm just going to put into the chat a short survey. We ask that you kindly fill it out. It'll take less than a minute, and it just helps us make sure that we are hitting the mark with our programming and doing the best that we can, and also helps us to report back to our generous funders. And then the next thing is I just want to give a heads up for our next Feed Your Mind series. It is on gambling disorder. It's on Wednesday, April 23rd at 12 p.m. And we're partnering with a wonderful Chicago-based organization called Mikasa, and we're going to learn about gambling disorder and the upcoming trend that is actually happening with on campuses with online gaming and gambling and whatnot.
And
And
I'm going to tell you that a gambling disorder is part of the overbroad spectrum called process disorders. So it's very much linked to substance use, gambling, and trading and pornography. All of these addictive behaviors are related. So I'm assuming that that will be touched on when you have your next Feed Your Mind. So if your kid isn't gambling, but they're day trading or they're watching too much pornography, I would say tune in because I don't know what too much pornography, if they're watching pornography, um, or they're experimenting and using recreational substances. These are all process disorders and they're all forms of addiction.
Thank you. I'm putting the link to that program. It's called The Odds Are Good That You Know Someone Affected by Gambling Disorder. And you can get the description with the link I just threw in the chat. And we hope to see you then. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Bonnie, for being with us. Thanks to the familiar faces I see out there for attending. This will be shared out and posted on our YouTube channel, and it is free and accessible to anybody who needs it. So please share away. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you again soon from No Shame on You.
Thank you, Wendy, and thanks everybody for taking time out of their day.
Bye.
Bye.